Hey there, I'm just going to review what Cholula and I worked on this last Tuesday. So I do have this all on double speed, which is why it looks a little bit choppy. So we're starting off by going on a bit of a walk in the neighborhood. And you can see she does pretty well staying with me, and I'll just reinforce her whenever she's in a nice usage position. And then if she starts to move ahead and put tension on that leash, I'm just going to say whoops and stop. And then she's going to get back into kind of a usage position, and we can continue going again. Similarly, if she gets distracted and starts to sniff and I'm kind of getting bored, I'm just going to say let's go. And then I'll kind of count to 3 in my head. And if we start going in that time, that's great. I'll mark and treat in position. And if not, then I'll just put that treat right up to her nose and use it to get her to move along. So we were having a pretty nice walk, and she was doing pretty well until we got to an area that's coming up here shortly. And then I'm not really sure exactly what it was that spooked her, but you're going to see that she is like kind of visibly spooked. So she goes from this nice, you see walking, checking in with me, kind of doing some sniffing, nice waggy tail, use body language. And this is going to shift to her being more hypervigilant, so looking around and having trouble checking in with me. And her tail and ear are going to lower as well. So that's going to be coming up here shortly once we get a little bit deeper into the neighborhood. And this is the first sign where she kind of veers really strongly off path and out of position. At first I just try to get her back into position, but you can see it particularly she's a bit weary about this fence. So I'm not sure if it was the fence or something behind it or a smell. There's obviously something she was picking up on that I couldn't quite make out. So I'm just going to go ahead. We're going to pass that fence, get a little bit of distance away from it. And then I'm going to pause and do some up-down pattern game to see if I can't get her back with me. And so for that, I'm just going to drop a treat right in front of her. I'll say find it. And when she checks back in with me, so offers that eye contact, I'll mark treat and then drop another treat. So you can see initially she's still having some trouble. And so what will happen is she'll find that first treat that I drop, and then upon looking back up, she'll first scan her environment a little bit and then check in with me. And so that's kind of the purpose of this up-down pattern game, is we're going to be able to see how quickly she can check in with me versus how much time she's spending kind of scanning her environment. And so gradually she's able to start to check in with me quicker. And so we're going to go ahead and continue our walk. So once she was having an easier time checking in with me, I'm just going to have her swing into heel position. And then we're going to continue going on our walk. And you can see now she's keeping a really nice pace. Every so often she'll get stuck on a smell, and I kind of have to prompt her to keep going. Or she'll move ahead a little bit, and I just have to stop and let her reset. But for the most part, she's going to have a really nice rest of that walk. So I then wanted to go into the park and spend some time working on a recall. So you can see here, I'm mostly going to be practicing a Cholula here. But I'm also going to occasionally do some hand touches. For the most part, she's doing pretty well with this. Now, there are some times where she gets a little bit distracted or excited. So right there, she had chased a squirrel up the tree. And I'm not going to try recalling her away from chasing the squirrel. That would be too hard. So instead, I'm going to let her chase it, take a moment to sniff, and then call her. There was still a moment, though, where I called her. I gave her kind of 3 seconds to start heading my way. and she was struggling with it. So I just kind of decreased the distance between her and me and called again. And that was then successful. So similarly to that, when there's something happening that's a bit too hard, I'm not going to try calling her away from it. I'm just going to practice nice, gentle check-ins and being able to help her work through it. So here there's a line of dogs walking by, and they're all looking pretty friendly. So she was getting a bit excited, wanting to go see them. So we're just going to do a little bit of engage, disengage, so that she can have a bit of an easier time as they pass by. And then once they've passed, it's at that point that I can see if she can do a bit of a recall. And for this first recall after the dogs pass, I'm going to stay pretty close to her for it, so I didn't let her go too far. And then I'm going to try getting some distance. I'm then going to switch gears a little bit and move on to some stays. So we're going to start with a bit of a sit stay. So I'm going to call her on over, reinforce her for coming when called, then ask for a sit. I'll mark and treat that sit, ask for a stay. I'll move it a little bit, mark and treat for the stay, and then release with a free and a beckoning motion. It occurs to me this is probably going to be easier to see if I'm not holding the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the camera and just do some different quick examples of a sit stay. So I'm going to ask her to sit, mark and treat, stay, do a little spin or something a bit distracting, mark and treat, and then release with that free and a beckoning motion. So we're going to repeat this a few times with just some different variations. Now, when she was younger and we worked on stays, I probably cautioned against doing an extended sit stay. And that's because as puppies, they're just not developed physically enough to hold that sit. Now that she's a bit older and past that puppy stage and kind of full grown, we should see, her joints are fully formed. So I'm less concerned about her holding that sit stay. Now, that being said, there still does take a good bit of physical strength to do that sit stay. And so if I see her starting to do more of a sloppy sit, so if her knees or feet start to bow out, I'm going to go ahead and switch to a down stay. Now I am switching to a down stay right here, not because she was having trouble sitting, but just because I wanted to practice the down stay as well. Also, between stays, I might do some recalls or some walking around just so that she can take a little bit of a break. But we're going to practice some down stays as well, just with some different variations and in some different positions. So she's doing really well with that recall as well as those stays. So we're going to come back to the house, and I want to start by working on her place. So we're going to be doing day 3 of this relaxation protocol. And I do have this part on triple speed just because, you kind of know how this works now. So I wanted you to be able to see most of it, but still be kind of mindful of the time. And she did really well with this. She was able to stay on place the whole time, and she didn't do any vocalizing. What's also nice is that though she does, check in with me and watches me a good bit, there's also quite a few times when I have to walk away and she just continues sniffing or doing her own thing at the bed. That seems like a weird thing to appreciate and want to see more of, but part of this is that she should start to develop some relaxation and independence, so she should be more comfortable staying in her bed even if I'm walking away or there's other things going on. So being able to settle and not care that I'm walking away is a really nice kind of side effect of this relaxation protocol. And so I was really happy to see her doing that instead of watching me or vocalizing as I was leaving. So I'm going to cut out a bit in the middle here just for the sake of time, and then come back when we're finishing up. So I cut out a bit, and now we're heading towards the end of this day 3 relaxation protocol. So since she was able to do the whole thing without getting up or vocalizing, we're going to call this a successful day. And the next time we practice, we'll go on to day 4. So at the end, I'm just going to release her from her place and kind of pick up her bed. So before I left, I wanted to just practice a little bit of these departure cues and desensitizing her to these departure cues. So I'm going to give her her Kong with some treats, and then start acting as if I'm leaving by going towards the door, walking in and out of the door. And in between each one, I'm just going to put some more treats in her Kong. And I'm watching to see if she's concerned, and she's not. She doesn't look up from her Kong once.